From the audience, everything looks perfect, but behind the curtains there is a hidden cost to keeping ballerinas on their toes. 8,500 is the number of pairs of pointe shoes the New York City Ballet Company goes through each season. The average lifespan of these pointe shoes is just 2 days. So where do all the pointe shoes go? Pointe shoes can only be worn so many times before they lose their structural integrity and are dumped in landfill. Dance costumes are only performed in once, maybe twice, before they are thrown away, leaving an enormous ecological footprint, contributing to climate change pollution whilst contaminating the soil and land. To combat the issues of mass consumption patterns within the ballet industry, I have initiated a business, Second Act, where consumers donate their old pointe shoes and costumes, and I commission a bespoke competition tutu and makeup bags, which upcycle materials deemed as waste, extending their life cycle. Second Act's donation bins can be set up at local dance studios, theatres and dance retailers to collect old pointe shoes and costumes. Its website and social media encourage the wider public to donate, generating awareness of diverting ballet industry waste from landfill. My project is heavily based on research of consumption patterns within ballet, which informed various testing, experiments and prototypes. My process began by talking to individuals who experienced this issue in a professional setting. After completing work experience at Sydney Dance Company with Head of Wardrobe Annie Robinson, my genuine need was confirmed.
So I've worked in quite a few different dance companies. I hadn't thought about it until we were talking about it. When you mentioned it, it is so true and clear. I used to be part of the wardrobe team that would order the pointe shoes for the dancers in Scottish Ballet. I know how many pointe shoes they go through a year, and they just have to make that last. You know, that's hundreds per dancer. So I hadn't really thought about the wastage of it. I definitely thought about the manufacturing of it. I didn't know that there were, I just didn't think about it. Yeah. Like a lot of people don't, I guess.
I then began deconstructing pointe shoes and old costumes to determine how much of each product could be salvaged and upcycled. This process was highly time-consuming as I was still figuring out the fastest method to remove the satin from the shoe. I utilised online patterns and tutorials to construct the bodice and a unique patchworking technique to assemble the pieces. I arranged the pointe shoe fabric on the mannequin, focusing on creating a flattering shape. I repurposed as much of the shoe as possible, using the pointe shoe ribbon as the casing for the boning, a cost-efficient and sustainable creative solution. An area I found difficult was the construction of the basque, as the pattern was confusing to follow, resulting in many fails. However, these failures provided me with direction for further action to construct a prototype which resulted in the more precise final basque. I created my own pattern for the petal-shaped tutu plate, but utilised a concentric circle to align everything correctly. This 2-layered plate failed at first to fit adequately into the tutu base. Consequently, I removed one petal altogether, which allowed the plate to align perfectly, solving the problem through this creative solution. Overall, the tutu plate was the most time-consuming aspect as the preparation work before sewing was immense. I cut the tulle based on measurements from a tutu cutting chart, then labelled each piece, layer 1 to 9, before individually pleating each piece, finally attaching the 9 layers to the panty. The construction of a professional tutu by a costumer can take 120 hours of work, but due to my inexperience, it took me upward of 300 hours to complete this tutu. Implications that arose throughout my project included being limited to second-hand charity shops for fabrics, and the sewing machine's needles not being durable, snapping numerous times due to the bulk of my fabric, which caused delays. Although these implications set me back, the construction of my makeup bag was fast and efficient without any problems, so I managed to keep my time and action plan, adhering to my finance plan and spending under my budget. My engaging Instagram page is linked with my website, through which the posting and reel feature allowed me to share a promotional video highlighting the quality and detail of my products, thus catching the attention of a broader audience, communicating the impact of mass consumption on an individual's health, the overall society, dance community, and the environment. I also learnt and gained many new skills such as graphic design to develop my branding and website, and communication skills when collaborating with a designer to digitalize my logo designs. I decided to use Squarespace to design my website, a software I had never used before because of its AI feature, which allows for a quick and efficient designing process. I reached out to HSC dance marker Elise Millington to gain her thoughts on my final tutu makeup bag and brand as a whole.
I think the bins that she's got designed ready for ballet studios are perfect. They're clear. You can see how many shoes are going in there. Her logo is super appropriate. It really shows that idea of the reuse and recycle alongside the ballet shoe motif. I absolutely love the costume that's been created from these ballet shoes. Negatives, I can't think of any negatives because I feel like Sienna's filled a gap that I didn't realise needed filling, but it does.
I gained an insight into the wearability and functionality of the tutu by interviewing dancer and model of my product, Sophie Whitaker.
Some of the functional features that I really loved was how it had hook and eye on both the bodice and on the skirt of the tutu. So although I needed help getting into it, the process was actually really easy and quick. And then the aesthetic features that I loved was all the little embellishments all over the bodice and on the skirt. I definitely see myself, as well as people in the dance community, purchasing these types of products. I know at my studio we have lots of point shoes lying around in a bin that are just not going to use, but something like this really puts these shoes to purpose. I had point shoes lying around, but now they've been put to a greater need and are now in a tutu.